My name is Steven Riznyk. I've been practicing immigration law and various aspects of it for 29 years. We even create cases for other lawyers in some of the more complex areas in this field. And I thought I'd create this video about Presidential Order 13768 because we're getting a lot of calls from a lot of panicked people, a lot of people getting turned down, et cetera, who are not understanding exactly what's going on. And unfortunately, the presidential ban on travel took over the media headlines, and of course, the broad concept of criminals didn't get the exposure time, and as a result, a lot of people aren't aware of the risk factor that they have. But 13768 is very much alive, very much in force. I'm waiting for some regulations and some guidelines to explain this to me. But let me explain to you what it's all about, because our law firm, San Diego Biz Law, has received a ton of calls from all over the planet, and people just simply don't know what to do. Here's the deal. Immigration law, first of all, is not in favor of criminals, obviously. And we have a number of code sections that deal with the various grounds. They call them grounds of inadmissibility under Section 212 of the INA, which is the Immigration and Nationality Act, which is the law of immigration. You can look it up on the internet for free. However, 13768 modified 212 in many ways. First of all, it created a priority system for removal of people. They used to call it deportation, but now it's removal. And this applies, by the way, to both visa holders, students, H-1s, you name it, and green card holders. That's one of the reasons a lot of people are applying for citizenship. They're worried. So here's what happens. If you've been convicted of any crime, you're removable, period. And that includes $10 shoplifting, whatever it may be. Second, if you've been charged with a crime but not convicted. And this one I'm a little more concerned about because let's say you drove off the road. You took, not off the road, but off the freeway, and you took one lane at a greater angle than you should have and got charged with a DUI, as someone I know did. But we're not guilty of driving under the influence, but it's hard to do those roadside tests and pass, as you know. You would be removable. So you simply have to be charged with a crime. Now, the other problem is this. In today's world, as you know, a lot of people use drugs, have drugs. For example, marijuana has been legalized in some states, such as California. One person may have enough marijuana there for 5 people in their bag that you're not aware of. For some reason, the car gets pulled over and there's a search. They volunteer the bag. They find enough marijuana or other drugs for 2 people. So if you have more than enough for one, you both get charged with possession for the purposes of trafficking, for the most part, and then it's your job to hire a legal counsel and get you out of that mess. Well, the problem is this. If you didn't know the other person had the marijuana or the drugs, and let's assume the other person has a marijuana card, you don't. That's all it takes. And now you will be removed from the country. The third aspect of 13768, or the sub-aspect, I should state, of this part of it, I don't think you're going to see a lot of, but I do see some people setting up other people. They state that if you have committed the elements of an offense, but have not been charged or convicted, you're also in a priority to be removed. So let's say, I don't know, what kind of an example? Oh, I always use the example of this one client, which is a perfect example. She had children, went to Walmart, went to the photo area, get some reprints made. Child starts crying. Photo area is right by the front door. She walks out to calm them down. Forgot that she had the pictures in the midst of all the craziness. the attendant at Walmart calls security. She gets arrested. It's over. So she committed the elements of the offense, but she didn't actually commit the offense. She didn't go to her car. She didn't try to steal $5 worth of pictures and put Walmart out of business. She simply went out to get her children some peace of mind, or actually the fellow shoppers some peace of mind. But this happens. I can see employers, we've had some issues because we have a labor department at San Diego Biz Law, some people who have been employed who, of course, don't have documentation in the United States have been taken advantage of left and right. And so you may find employers who don't want to pay them. They'll say, well, that's fine. I'll state that, I saw you stealing X, Y, Z. We still don't know exactly how that's going to play out or how we're going to regulate it. That's a more difficult part of the whole equation. But certainly the issue with respect to criminal issues, and especially when you haven't even been convicted, they're going to prove to be a problem. Now, we're not in favor of criminals, obviously, but a lot of people have made mistakes, and some of them are quite minor. I mean, I had one client, I won't mention what country he was from, but he had a great sense of humor, and he was outside his university when he was young, and he got drunk, went out, took his clothes off in the middle of the street, and was cheering with his beer. He got charged, of course, but he was denied entry to the United States, and this was before President Trump's 13768. And this was, what, 30 years ago, 35 years ago. He's now a chief executive officer of a multi-million-dollar company. Can't get in the country. So, immigration doesn't forgive and doesn't forget. Whatever crime you've committed, whenever you committed it, has to be addressed at some point or the other. Another situation that you find, and this is an interesting one. Somebody just called me on this one last week. Oh, if you are in the United States, you committed the offense in the United States, the one way that you can remove it off the books, if you will, is not with an expungement. Forget that. Immigration doesn't recognize them. But with a governor's pardon. And you can have the case pardoned. So what happened to this person who called us, they had some minor offense, got a governor's pardon for it. Well, it wasn't a minor offense, actually. It was, it wasn't against the person, is what I wanted to say, not minor. But, he did his thing, got a governor's pardon, and then he hired a lawyer to fill out his paperwork because he was marrying a U.S. citizen. Well, lo and behold, the lawyer turned around, and where it asks, have you ever been arrested? The lawyer stated no, because the effect of a governor's pardon is to wipe it out as if it never existed. Well, that's document fraud. And unfortunately, like so many other people, he looked at the forms, name, address, turned around, signed them, gave them to the lawyer. And then he got removed from the country, got arrested. So there are many ways in which to commit an offense or a set of circumstances which will keep you out of this country. Now, how to deal with them? Certain offenses, and we'll actually be writing an article about this shortly on our website, myimmigrationattorney.com, that will deal with governor's pardons and how you can obtain them. The other way to deal with this is to file what's called a waiver. And a waiver is a very sophisticated document that states to the government, look, I've committed this offense. There are these cases that support that this should be overlooked this one time. led a good life, and I'd like to be forgiven, if you will. Well, only about 1% of immigration lawyers are qualified to write waivers. And this creates a bit of a problem because, I was always surprised by immigration law. We also deal in civil litigation contracts. We're a business law firm. And so I couldn't understand why in immigration, despite it, I think it's the second cheapest or least expensive area of law after bankruptcy, why people are always looking for the least expensive. Well, we're not the most expensive, we're middle of the road, but there is a certain threshold you have to pass in the sense of, if it costs less than this, it's too good to be true, especially a lawyer who knows what it takes to create the case. I had a client call me on Friday, and what happened to him, he had committed 2 offenses, both of them shoplifting offenses, and he stated he hired a lawyer to create the waiver, and it lost, and he wanted us to appeal it. Well, first of all, you only have a 3% chance on appeal. But the most telling thing I knew, I asked him, how much did the lawyer charge you for the waiver? And he said $1,250. My point is not to sell you on anything. My point is to educate you, because you're not in the business of law and understanding about waivers, because, your first shot is a very important shot. Afterwards, you're kind of patching the holes. When you're hiring someone to prepare a waiver, which is the way most people who are in this country have to deal with this, because once they travel, it's like a revolving door that only goes in one direction. Once you're out of here, you're out of here. You won't be coming back in if you have a criminal record. I hope you understand that. So you want to file a waiver. However, to do it right, it takes a certain amount of effort. And so if you're looking for a lawyer who can file one for $2,000 or $3,000, you have to probably wait until you can afford one. I'd rather state that than to do a cheap one, because if you've got a cheap one, now they've got your name, address, phone number, and it's not much of a waiver, because there are 2 ways of creating a waiver. One, you can buy a book from the American Immigration Lawyers Association for $200 or $300, find a bunch of cases, copy and paste them, attach the client's facts. That can be done by somebody who makes $12 an hour, and you've got a waiver. And then you could go to a database called westlaw.com that has every single case in immigration that's ever been heard and made it to precedence level in their database. And you put in a search. Unfortunately, it brings up 12, 15, sometimes 2,500 what they call hits, and you have to read, speed read through these cases to find maybe a couple that support you. It takes 3 people about 80 hours to prepare a good waiver. But then you've got the best shot possible with the waiver. I would urge anybody who's got a criminal record to lead a good life, spend some time volunteering, help the community, show the government that you're not just another person who did this, that, and then just wants to be, forgiven as if it never happened. Show them that you've gone out of your way to become a better human being. If you had issues with drinking, go to the courses, go to rehab, do what you need to do. But give them a little bit more than, oh yeah, my name is John Smith. I committed a couple of crimes. Please forgive me, I want to stay here, you have beautiful weather, I work here, da-da-da. Because that's often not enough. Think like the officer does. And also it'll improve the quality of your life. I'm big on volunteer work, for those of you who know me. Making the world a better place is something I take very seriously, and it'll improve the quality of your life. You'll meet very interesting people who also will believe in what you've committed your time to, because there are many good things to volunteer with. So I wish you all the best of luck. If you have any questions, give us a call. Cheers.